Being rich, it's not easy. It's ball busting. It takes a lot of human sacrifice, but you've got to really want it. I mean, you have to want it more than the air that you breathe. My father was a policeman. My mom was a housewife. My mother came to the United States. She crossed the Rio Grande River in 1924 as an illegal alien with her mother. We lived almost right where downtown Los Angeles is. And my dad was a cop, and so it was easy for him to get to work. I got in a lot of trouble. I've done some awful things while I was a little kid, especially. I was arrested 5 times, and all my arrests were alcohol related. And then finally, I volunteered for the draft in 1966, more or less at the height of the Vietnam War. And the Army made a man out of me. I became an officer, and the rest is really history. And it was the first high performance thing I ever did. I didn't understand, other than I had a father who looked like a superhero, alpha male role model. Other than that, he was my benchmark. He was very athletic. He was an all-American athlete in high school, and I could barely chew gum and walk at the same time. I was very uncoordinated. So my aggression I took out on other people. I could get in fights real well, but I went off in the Army. The first high-performance thing I did was become an officer, and I got out of the military quite by accident. I was going to stay in the military because it was perfect for me. It was almost impossible for me to get in trouble. And then one day, I got a special award. One day I'm sitting in the officers club, and a 2-star general said, "Danny, why don't you buy the drinks for all of us?" And I said, I bought the drinks. You don't ask a 2-star general why. But then afterwards we had a few drinks. I said, "But why should I buy the drinks?" And he says, "Because you won that award a few weeks ago." And I said, "General, that was a $50 war bond. That's really no money." And then he said the magic words that changed my life: "Danny, a young man like you could get rich in the civilian world." And I swear to you, a light bulb went off over my head. I'd never thought of rich Danny Pena in the same sentence. And I applied to get out of the Army, and I was out of the Army in 6 months, and I went back to school. And I basically tore the financial world up.
Wow.
It was very simple for me. And I turned $820 into $450 million in 7 years. I used to drink a lot, even as a kid. And i.e. all my jail time. I never went to prison, but I certainly went to jail a lot. And it was because I bought alcohol as a minor, did crazy things as a minor under the influence of alcohol. When I went to school, I found it very easy. I went to graduate school. I applied for law school, got a scholarship to go to law school. I got a job during graduate school because I found graduate school very easy. I was selling real estate. And this is 1971. I started making 10 grand a month, 20 grand a month, 30 grand a month, 40 grand a month, $50,000 a month. So I skipped law school. I dropped out of graduate school, and I bought my first Rolls Royce when I was 24 and a half, and I'm still driving Rolls Royces. And I realized that even though my environment, my social and economic milieu didn't know what $1 million was, I felt very comfortable in that environment, and I've been there ever since. So I lost all that money, and I went to work for a investment banking client at Bear Stearns, because I was at Bear Stearns, and I became president of a subsidiary in less than a couple years. And then I had a disagreement with the board, and I got fired in January 1982. And I had only $820. I just bought a big house because I was projecting, like everybody does, that if I make this much money for this period of time, I can afford this big a house. I got fired, and so when I started Great Western, it was $820, and it was January the 7th, 1982. The first thing I did is I looked for anomalies in the federal bidding process for federal products. And because I was in investment banking, I was involved in oil and gas, I saw there was the refineries across the United States were only 60% being used, and yet there was a jet fuel shortage with the U.S. Air Force. Now that doesn't make sense. There's no oil and gas in the U.S. Air Force. They were highly short, and yet the refineries in America were only being 60% used. So I put two and two together, I connected the dots, and I bid on federal contracts. And the first year in business, I did $50,540,000 in business with one employee, me. And then when I had that money, or a portion of that money, the profit part of that money, I went out and I sought oil and gas partners, drilling for oil and gas, I continued to connect the dots, and so I continued to build. I had allegedly, arguably, ostensibly, the greatest financial transaction of the 80s, where I took an option on oil and gas properties for $60,000, and I turned it into $160 million in 99 days. And from there, I was overnight success. It's very reminiscent now. I'll be 76 in a few days. I'm an overnight success after 50 years in business. I decided I wanted to do something else because I already was ostensibly pretty rich. And I tried to teach university for a year. I found that very unfulfilling. 93, 94, I taught an honors class. And then one of my friends, a former officer during the Vietnam era, along with me, a Marine officer, he said, "Dan, why don't you coach?" I said, I didn't really understand it. So I took a year off, and I went around and listened to everybody, from Tony Robbins to Jay Abraham to you name it. I went to the seminars. I paid to go to the seminars. And I realized that most of the guys don't know what the hell they're talking about. And it was easy, so I thought I'd spend only 5 years doing it. That's 23 years ago, 5 years. And here I am. I thought that I would be able to build self-esteem, because that's the real, it's the foundation of all wealth, unless you inherit it, is self-esteem. And most kids didn't have it even then, and less kids have it now, which is a sad commentary on where we are in society. Self-esteem is built the first 7 or 8 years of life. You can think back who you're involved with the first 7 or 8 years of life. Normally it's a mom, maybe a dad if he's around, an older sibling, a grandparent. Well, what the hell do they know about building self-esteem? Mostly nothing. Well, that's not how you grow. You grow by being around people that don't think like you. I mean, good things, not bad things, not robbing banks and stuff like that. And that's not the pattern. And you've heard at home, money's the root of all evil. It even says that in the Bible, I think. And so you've grown up in the environment that being rich is bad, or at least it's not enviable. I grew up not knowing what rich was, but I know none of us had enough money.
Let's talk about Generation Snowflake. Why do you refer to our generation as snowflakes? Why are you so tough?
Snowflake means you melt under pressure. That's originally what it meant. Did you know that 71%, there was an article in Forbes, I think, a couple years ago, let's just call it 70% of millennials cry at work once a week.
Wow.
That's a lot. That's a lot of people.
It's too much.
Why? Why do they cry? Because they're
pathetic.
soft? Is that why?
Because it's too stressful. Do you think Steve Jobs ever gave anybody a week off to decompress? Do you think Bill Gates ever get... I can go on and on and on. Okay? The kids melt under pressure. They do. And now, in this country, if you call somebody fat, even if they are fat, it's a hate crime. You ask how do you millennials become multimillionaires rich, right? Well, first of all, you got to man up. Now, this sounds awful. You got to act like you had a pair. It's that simple. The millennials like the MMA on TV and, the mixed martial arts. You know why? Because they're all wusses. Why is Joe Rogan, who I've been on his show, why are guys like Joe Rogan and, Jocko Wacko? Why are they so admired by you kids? Because they're men. Because they got a pair. Man up.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid when you know something's wrong that your supervisor or your boss is doing, tell them so. And have the balls, well, you might get fired. Snowflake kids don't see the downside of being a snowflake. My father told me, sticks and stones can break your bones, Dan, but words can never hurt you. And of course, the society is flipped the other way now. Now words can hurt people, and nobody hits anybody with sticks and stones. When you're 60 years old, and you look back at the choices you made, like the one you made last year, as opposed to some of the people you know that made other choices, probably poor choices, you're going to stand ahead of the pack. But don't do things that you're not excited about, because, the last thing you want is, and I make this speech, I'm a great eulogy giver, and I've given, 16 or 17 eulogies. And before they die, if they ask me to give the eulogy before they die, I go to the hospital and I talk to them about, And every single one that I've talked to, I think 9 of them, they've all whispered in my ear the same thing. The regrets they had for the things, the risks they didn't take. The risks they didn't take. When you're 75 or 80, and if you're married and you got grandkids all sitting around and they're all saying, sweet dreams, blah, blah, blah. For you to be regretting the risks you didn't take, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. There's not many, right now, I still plan on going into space before I die. So that's about the only thing that I would have a regret of future things. And my regrets from my past are: 1, I didn't see combat in the Army. Number 2, I told my mother to f*** off the day before she died. I said, "You're not sick, Mom," and she died the next morning. I'd like to have that one back. And the third one is I didn't set my goals high enough. And I set pretty high goals. But I also accomplished them almost overnight. If I had known that, I would have obviously set higher goals. If we were in the seminar and you were sitting here and I'd say, okay, tell me, describe, and the paperwork they fill out, I pretty much know who they're hanging with or chilling with. Did you know that Elon Musk doesn't hang? Bill Gates doesn't chill. Yet millennials, that's what they want to do. So if you've surrounded yourself with 4, 5, or 6 people that want to hang, when you're hanging, you're not, now I know you're supposed to be decompressing, and I understand all that. I don't believe, if you have to decompress at the weekend or go on a holiday, because holidays are really important here, I mean, in the UK. Everybody's bitching because they lost their down payment because of COVID, etc. But if you have to go on a holiday to decompress, you got the wrong job, or you don't love what you do. I've never, from 1971 to 1997, I didn't take a day off. Not a day off. And I got married on one of those days.
Wow.
Elon Musk says vacations will kill you. Because in 2013, he went to South America and he caught some voodoo something or other and almost died. Bill Gates doesn't. Have you ever seen Bill Gates at the Super Bowl or the World Series? No. If I looked at your 5 friends, each one of you, the best of you have one maybe person that's worth having as a friend. If you measure, am I growing with this person? I mean, is she detrimental to my future? And you go through the list, I mean, very few of the millennials that I know can justify the people that they hang with. All the guys that, that I grew up with, because we were poor, worked. I worked since I'm 12 years old. Howard, who's still alive, worked till he was, since he's 12. Walt worked since he's 10. He's dead, he just died. And if your 2 best friends, all they do is work, I can't do that, I'm working this weekend. I can't do this, I'm working this weekend. My dad worked 28 years as a cop for Los Angeles Police Department. He didn't take a day off. He didn't take his statutory leave for 28 years. And when he retired after 28 years, they gave him a check for almost $60,000 because you could accumulate your sick and your days off. Now you can't do that. But I never saw him take a day off in 28 years. One thing I learned, and you may take this to heart, don't waste time on things you can't change. And I used to think it was my job to help everybody. This is before I coached. I tell people, this is personal, but if you were ever married, you had in-laws. And the chances of you changing your in-laws are 0. That's my prime example of showing, don't waste time on things you can't change. If you're lazy, there's nothing that can help you. Andrew Carnegie said it best. Tom Watson Sr., the founder of IBM, said it best again. Henry Ford, said it again, and I've said it. If you have to motivate employees, they're not worth having. Nobody ever had to motivate me in my life. And one of my big bosses on Wall Street, who's the godfather to our youngest son, and he hates hearing this, when your dad was 26, 27, 28, we would have to have security drag him out of the office because he'd sleep at his desk for 7 or 8 days. The secretary used to go out and buy him new shirts and underwear, and he'd sponge bath in the men's room. Our kids don't like hearing that story, but it happens to be true. Nobody ever had to motivate me. I've never, ever been corrected for making a mistake in my 51 years in business. Never once. I'm always the most prepared in the room. Always, even now. You can do whatever the you want to do if you believe in it enough. Now, somebody might tell you can be Prime Minister of Canada. Okay? Well, that's a lie. Okay? I don't even know anything about your background, but I know for a fact. And when when parents tell their kids, you can be anything you want to be, you can be the President of the United States, that's shit. You can be anything you want to be if you've been groomed properly. Okay? And that means your parents had to know something about building self-esteem, etc. Okay? So when I tell you you can be anything you want to be, I've created billionaires with these 2 hands. Multi-billionaires. From kids, one kid last year, half-breed, no education, in 7 months, $70 million. You don't have to have money to make money. What you have to have is belief in yourself. The Olympics are on right now. I just saw your kid win the 200-meter gold medal. Okay, I've seen a couple others, not just Canadians. They came from nothing. Okay, you don't have to come from something, but you have to have belief in yourself. And unfortunately, getting back to your millennial question, most of millennials don't believe in themselves. They act like victims. They have the victim syndrome. Did you realize Gallup did a poll 2 years ago? 87% of the human race is unhappy.
Wow.
Why are they unhappy?
Yeah.
Because they don't have what they perceive as what they deserve. But it's not what you deserve in life, it's what you earn in life. I came from a background. My dad beat me. I got in a lot of trouble. I found a way to turn it around. The kids, the millennials, give up too easily. If you're not first, you have to be different. What I see kids doing is just replicating the same business idea over and over again. So if you're not first, you've got to be different. How are you different? Well, who's your market? Do you really understand who your market is? The best and easiest way to become wealthy, not overnight, but in a short period of time, is to come up with an idea that nobody's come up with. And unfortunately, most ideas have already been explored. You're not going to invent steel. You're not going to invent rubber. You're not going to invent the wheel. You're not going to, none of these things. But most kids want it to be handed to them on a platter. Most kids think they go to a 3-day seminar in Montreal that it's going to be the end-all, be-all, and they're going to turn that $3,000 or $1,800 into millions. And that's just not true. It's just not true. I'm the only one that posts his results because I'm told that nobody else has any results. I'm the only guy that has real billionaires that said, I owe it all to Dan.
What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Find a mentor that has been where you want to be. And shoot for the moon. Don't settle for also rans. Find something you love. Find something you're passionate about. And only surround yourself with other people that are passionate about the same thing. And then if it's work to you, it's not worth pursuing. I don't consider myself working. I consider myself, this is like a hobby. And I haven't had to work in 35 years.